Hello everyone, this is Dark Maverick here, gamer, Linux user, and a fan of all things open source. Today I'd like to talk about Gab. Um, it is a social platform that went open source, which should have been a great thing, but what in fact it has done is shown how fractured and hypocritical the open source community as a whole can be. I do want to point out a few things. I help with open source projects. I'm not very good at coding. I do my best to support them. I have no problems donating to their causes, getting people to migrate to them where I can and where possible, and things of that nature. So first and foremost, let us get in to the Gab, and so people are going to ask, what is Gab? Gab is a social platform. Well, it was off on its own. It's probably most famous because everybody who hates free speech and wants to censor people just hates this platform because they don't want to censor anybody. There are several things that need to be remembered. Gab is based in the United States of America and is thus subject to the law of the United States. Whether you like it or not, hate speech is not a thing in the United States. There's speech um, that basically, if you're saying you calling upon violence upon a person, saying that you're going to commit violence upon a person, trying to get other people to cause violence to a group of people or a person or anything like that, attacking a person, those type of things are illegal. They're not hate speech. They're violations of the law. You know, as me, as a fat person, saying I hate fat people, not breaking any laws. So, freedom of speech can be hurtful, but it's your job as a responsible adult to grow up. That's basically the United States law. I'll put standpoint on this. So, Gab was pretty much created because they've had enough of Twitter, Facebook, and Google censoring people. It's just not just them, but the big social platforms. They've had enough of them censoring people and not explaining their rules. That doesn't mean Gab is a free for all. If your speech is unlawful, it's going to get removed and it's probably going to get reported to the police, as it should. So if you're on here spreading actual racism and Nazism, saying stupid stuff that is against the law, you're going to get banned and censored and everything else. Okay? If you're just saying some hateful things, no. I've been on here for probably about 8 months. I don't use it a lot, as you can see. I've only done 35 Gabs. Um, I'm a member of a few different groups, though. I haven't found any real hate speech. Uh, you know, not really. I haven't really gone looking for it either, though, so I'd like to point that out. But the main thing we want to talk about here is Gab. The old Gab, before they switched, this is post-switch, not before. They've moved to the Federation. Was kind of clunky. It was horrible. It was acceptable to bots and attacks and stuff like that, and it was pretty horrible. They did raise multiple rounds of funding though, so a lot of money I'm gonna guess went to nowhere or to early development. I'm not sure. That's not something I've checked into. If somebody does, get back to me on that. But what we're gonna look at here um, is Gab joined the Federation. If you don't know what the Federation is, you can look at some of my earlier videos where I was stupid, foolish, and fell in love with just Mastodon before actually participating in Mastodon for a year. I no longer like Mastodon, and I'm going to get into why real quick here. But so Gab joined the open source community, which is great for a multitude of reasons. One, they're bringing a ton of people with them. You're talking I'm not quite sure what their user stats are. We can get into that in a minute, but it's a fairly good amount of people. They're bringing serious money with them. They raise a lot of money from their users who believe in free speech. Um, I just for those present, I do believe in free speech, but there's several people who live in countries that don't have that. Europe, uh, China, North Korea, Russia, Australia, a lot of countries that just don't value freedom of speech at all. Um, they have certain laws that curb it in certain ways and stuff. They don't have the rights like America has, and that's something for another day. Um, but so Gab brought a lot of users, a lot of publicity, and a lot of money to the Federation, which is an open source software. So when they joined and they forked and became an instance in the Federation, they have to remain open source. So any code that they do progressing further, especially from having this many users on one instance, all the bug fixes they're going to have to do and such things, they are going to be adding to the open source community, which is great and fantastic. And I hope this propels the open source community forward more. Unfortunately, it's also shown the hypocrisy of the open source community and a lot of the developers. We've got two big major offenders. One is Mastodon itself. Mastodon is a fork of ActivityPub, basically. It's been forked from several things, and it's just carrying on about the projects before it. It's not even that great of a use of it, ActivityHub, from what I've seen, or anything like that. And I left the video up. You can see when I really, really liked Mastodon, and I no longer do. And that's because after being there for a while, about a year, and I'm not by any means a crazy person. If you say one thing patriotic, you're gonna get banned. It's just the craziest reasons you'll get banned from Mastodon. And it come to find out when I started asking around, that's because Mastodon is full of people who think Twitter doesn't go far enough to ban Nazism and racists. And these are the type of people who, if you think differently than them, they're going to automatically call you a racist, a Nazi, and start bullying you. They call many Jews Nazis, which makes no sense to me. But they're under the belief if they scream loud enough, they're going to get their way, and sometimes they seem to do. So Mastodon is ran by one developer, pretty much, a team of his cronies. Eugene here, or Gargon, however you want to call him, and he is extremely social justicey, and just crazy. And you'd think he'd have been happy about all the money and resources coming into Mastodon, but as you can find out, the only people he sees defend freedom of speech are those who defend white supremacists. So he automatically connects free speech with white supremacists, which, if I see an actual white supremacist with 88 tattooed on them or something, um, we're going to have problems. Because I don't agree with that person. So, but that's just the automatic connection this person makes, and you'll see through here, you know, you defend free speech online, you're a Nazi. You're going to see several of this. This is what Mastodon is full of. So, what has basically happened is, when Gab joined Mastodon, or at least became a node in the Federation stuff on the 4th of July, these people went, instead of, trying to work with Gab or anything like that, I'm sure they didn't even talk to anybody from Gab, and just freaked out and went into full bully mode and everything else. And we're going to get a little bit into this, but here's a statement he made. I'll read it real quick here. Mastodon is completely opposed to Gab's project and philosophy, which seeks to monetize and platform racist content while hiding behind the banner of free speech. Okay. Really not true. I don't really need to break that down. Most people watch this are adults. You can go onto Gab and look for yourself. Come to your own conclusions. What's interesting here is that, basically they have all of these people here. They're calling, they're saying that are committed to active moderation against racism, sexism, and transphobia. You know, it's one of those things, you're an adult, you have the right to block and not listen to people. It's in any app. If you don't like the harassment, just block it and move on. But these people are just, they're crazy. They're saying that they're hijacking their infrastructure and is already taking steps to isolate Gab and keep people's speech off the Fediverse. But really, I haven't seen any hate speech on Gab. Been there for a year almost. I've actually seen more hate speech on Twitter by far. In fact, I've seen porn on Twitter. I haven't seen porn on Gab. And pretty much he kind of goes in here how Tusky and Toot have blacklisted it. Um, Basically, what they're trying to do is they're trying to isolate Gab. Basically, is what they're trying to do. Most of the people in Gab are probably just going to talk to other Gab users, and some of the other federations that aren't trying to isolate them, which is great. I don't know why Mastodon wants to go off and block itself. If they, it's weird to me. He really did blow some stuff up. But this is the Federation, Federation info. Mastodon is by far the biggest of the Federation. But if you go and break this down, it's going to take a minute to load here. This website's always slow. Um, but basically, we have a few things here. So, this is FediLab, and it's one of the apps to access the Federation, not just Mastodon. It started out as just Mastodon, but you can access any Federation from it. All of the apps that you had seen listed. And they did exactly what they usually do. These people were not going to censor Gab, so they stormed Google's report features to try and get FediLab taken off the Play Store. Instead, just leaving this person alone. He's put a lot of work into this application this team has. I'm sure they don't make a lot of money, but they put a lot of work and time and passion into this, and it's their choice not to ban some, right? But instead, they chose to bully. Just bring right out the freight train express of bully, hatred, and call all things Nazi and racism we don't like. The bottom of the line is this is anti-open source. Is what this comes down to. That extremely anti-open source. Oh, I don't even see Gab listed on here. So when Gab was on here, I don't know why it got removed. I'm guessing maybe something censored it or something. I could even do a search for it, I think. No, maybe not. Gab has more users on Mastodon than all of the instances combined when I last looked at this, really. Let's see. We'll see if it comes up here in a minute. But basically what you're looking at here, I'm a very big fan of open source community, code, hardware, and software. In fact, I think if you have public money going into something, the code should be public. That makes sense to me. You're going to take money you've taken from other people to develop this software or anything else like that, or some for the government, you know, um, server, database, anything like that, front end stuff should all be public code so it's accessible to the public. That way, if there's a problem, it can be fixed and stuff. That also means that people are going to be able to use that code and create their own things as long as they keep adding back to it. That's what open source is. So the way these people are acting, he didn't develop all of this. He forked it. and they just blew up and they're crying and boohooing like Gab is taking some that they've solely created, their harder project, and are just making money off of it. That's not the case. He didn't do all of this. He's put forth a lot of effort. You can't deny that. But he didn't solely create this. Yeah, it's not gonna come up. Fun times. I wonder why Gab got removed off of that, or Gab took themselves off. I'm not really sure. That's weird, because Mastodon was or Gab was showing up on there originally. But hmm, sorry, I just got curious there. So here's the second big thing this has shown. Not only has it shown that part of the open source community is full of crazy nut jobs, but then for whatever strange reason that is beyond me, F-Droid has decided that they're if you even talk about Gab, you're banned. They don't want to talk about it. I don't understand why. They're gonna seems like they're gonna ban and censor any type of apps and stuff that support Gab. So here's the dilemma here. F-Droid's supposed to be there to support open source software, right? It's the second biggest Google Android store versus you know, you get Google Play or you get this. It's usually what you get. I've used F-Droid for years. I don't any longer because of this. I see no reason to use F-Droid if they're going to censor and do stupid things when I could just get that same thing from Google Play. You know, I was using F-Droid because, I believe that they didn't censor and do crazy, crazy stuff like this. Um, you can't even, the craziest thing is you can't even talk about this. They're just outright censoring everything. You can read this article yourself. You can find it on the F-Droid subreddit, which I'm shocked isn't owned by the people from F-Droid. Um, but as a place that releases open source software, I don't understand why they want to get political and get involved in this. So, um, this is probably the biggest joke I've ever seen, though. This is not censorship, but a protective measure. That's a lie. Um, I mean, they do have this right, though. If you disagree with our guidelines reading regarding which apps are allowed or not allowed in a repository, feel free to create your own repository. Yeah, I'll agree that's their right to do that. Freedom of speech and, capitalism, all that stuff. They get to enjoy it, but they won't let other people, apparently. This is from F-Droid 2. This whole discussion has nothing to do with free speech or free software, which is bullshit. That's the whole point of this conversation. You have free open source software that pretty much ties in with freedom of speech. You want free open source software protected, and you want the freedom to talk about most everything you can as long as it's not violent speech. So I just pretty much wanted to point out some of these things that have been going on. It's just crazy to me that the the open source community can just sway so far on this subject. You have some great places like FedLab here. That's like, no, it's just they're just we're gonna have access to them. We don't really see that they did anything wrong. It's certain individuals. It's not the whole group of people. And then you've got people like Eugene here in Mastodon. They're just absolutely nuts and just bullies and crazed people. So, tell me your thoughts and kind of where you're at standpoint on this. I'm sure I'm going to get things both ways. I've seen on the Mastodon subreddit just some of these people are just so echo chambery. It's crazy. Uh, they don't even want to talk to people who think differently than them. It's weird. Um, I t- I've never really been a part of this kind of stuff. I've heard about it, but I've not a big Twitter person. I no longer have a Facebook. Have them for several years. I don't have an Instagram. So I've been pretty much, I guess you kind of say, isolated from that because I live in the real world. Um, but now it's kind of getting to that point that it's just a little crazy. You can see my activity on Gab's just me installing a radio and a Jeep, some strongman training entertainment. Oh, and then me getting banned from Mastodon. That was cute. I was banned from Mastodon.social instance because I said ICE wasn't racist. It wasn't gonna matter what country you were from. If you were in the United States illegally, you were gonna get deported, which is the truth. So, tell me all what you think. I will hopefully update some nice game videos. I've been doing some recording and stuff, so I hope you all enjoy those. Till next time, have fun.